Hi everybody, do you guys remember Sebastian the squirrel? Well, the one that was living in our hangar all winter, and with the onset of spring was released back into the park. Well, we often visited the same park to feed the squirrels. There are a lot of them there, and they're constantly running around and playing. Maybe one of these little ginger buddies is the child of our Sebastian. Although one of the squirrels may even turn out to be Sebastian himself, if of course this species knows how to get rid of tassels on the ears. Often the nuts that we gave them were eaten by the squirrels, and the rest were buried, but some rodents went even further. One actually took, and for some reason threw, our treat into a well. Fortunately, it was noticed not only by us, but also by another squirrel. He fearlessly jumped over, and then he got back out. He already had a nut in his teeth. Apparently, the well is not very deep because it only took him a couple of seconds to do this. When we looked inside of the well, to put it mildly, we were blown away by what we saw. There was a rather large turtle lying on the bottom. How did it even get inside? That's up for you guys to decide. Theoretically, it could have come in through this pipe, but the pipe hole looked really too close for the animal. Well, maybe the turtle jumped inside itself to be closer to the water supply? Maybe reptiles like this. From here to the nearest reservoir is about 1.5 kilometers, plus or minus, and this is even more misleading. But the saddest thing in this situation is that the well has essentially become a trap for the turtle. If the squirrel had not shown us its existence, one can only guess about the fate of this poor little turtle. The brick walls here are almost vertical, so getting out of here as cleverly as a squirrel is not really going to work out for a turtle. And when we went to go get the poor animal out, we saw something that shocked us way more. The turtle had already been eaten alive by ants, and apparently there was an anthill inside the well, and we were just lucky enough to land right on it. Even hide and seek in the shell was not going to save this turtle. They say that the weight of all ants on the planet is several times higher than the weight of all people. These insects live everywhere and attack everything that can be regarded as potential food. So they probably just got inside the turtle. Of course, we did not pass by, and we got the little reptile out of the stone trap. We took the turtle back to the hangar. I still wanted to assess its condition in a calm atmosphere before looking for a suitable reservoir for the animal to live in further. But first you need to free the turtle off from all of the annoying ants that are still biting at it, clinging to its shell, and even climbing inside of the skin flaps. Manually collecting them is long and pointless, so we're going to take a jar and fill it with water. Here we're going to lower down the turtle to wash away all of the insects. Once in the familiar environment, the animal noticeably cheered up, especially when the first ants began to swim out into the water. Having freed himself up from the iron jaws of these ants and pressing his head and paws out into the shell, the turtle began to swim impressively, celebrating liberation. Well, the ants are also not so simple. For example, this one, escaping from the water, climbed into the turtle island. So, we've sorted out the ant situation, and now it's time for us to move on to no less pressing matters. So what sex are you, our new reptile friend? As you know, the sex of a turtle can be determined by secondary signs, and the one we saved turned out to be a female. First of all, it has yellow eyes, while males have brown. Secondly, the lower part of the shell has a smooth texture, and in males it is slightly concave. The fact that this is a female already suggests some thoughts as to how she could have ended up in that well. Perhaps she went ashore to lay eggs and eventually just got lost. This is all incredibly useful information for us, of course, but it's time to feed the turtle. After all, we don't really know how long she was trapped in there before we showed up. Maybe she's even really hungry, and we're all figuring out whether it's a boy or a girl. To begin with, we will offer her some Zoophobus larvae. Although the turtle is a predator, it is apparently not familiar with this specific species. At the same time, the insects, as we have read, this group of reptiles even eats very much. Probably it's about insects, not their larvae, though. Well, okay, if that's the case, then we will just offer her an entire Argentine cockroach. This one is swimming right in front of its nose, but the turtle doesn't seem to care if it's maybe not hungry or just like the wrong food. So, the turtles feed on fish, frogs, caviar, and tadpoles. If it's not going to eat the fish, then it's not really clear what we're supposed to do with it. But no matter how hard we tried, it didn't really work out interesting the animal and the fish either. Maybe she just really didn't have time to get hungry down in the well, or we're doing something wrong. But I really don't think that she's going to be dying of hunger. We found some information on the internet that in critical situations, these animals are able to go without food for up to 6 years. This is absolutely crazy. And in general, every living turtle is an incredibly valuable animal for the entire ecosystem. And the one that is staying with us is the only species that lives in my country. You know, it's called the European marsh turtle and is actually listed into the International Red Book. In European countries, it is very appreciated as a delicacy. For this reason, there are no more of them left in the same Germany. And now poachers in a number of countries catch these poor animals and sell them to Europe. Due to these circumstances, an entire population may simply disappear from the face of the earth. So saving every turtle is a good thing. Especially since this turtle has lived on the planet for about 3 to 4 years. The age of such animals is determined by the number of growing rings, just like trees. In a year, about 2 or 3 rings are formed, and our guest has 9 of them, and the 10th has already begun to manifest itself. Now let's move on to weighing the turtle. Its body weight is 1347 grams. The usual weight of an adult of this species is 1.5 kilograms. It turns out that our little Tortuga in front of us is not some kid, but a real adult turtle. When we first got back to the hangar, our guard dog Misha became extremely interested in a previously unseen animal. It's time to introduce them. And I must admit that Misha immediately liked the turtle, and in the truest sense of the word. Apparently, he had heard somewhere that this was a delicacy because he immediately started licking the turtle's shell. But how our little Tortuga itself reacted to this is unclear, but just in case, it decided to hide itself in its shell. In general, the acquaintance can be considered successful. At least Misha was definitely delighted. There is a misconception that turtles are very slow and unwieldy animals. Although, in fact, they are actually rather just unhurried. Just look at the speed at which it moves across the floor of the hangar. You can't really call this speed low. As you know, turtles move on land at a speed of up to 1.5 kilometers per hour. Well, let's just see how fast it will run to the pond when we get to shore. All good things come to an end sometimes, so it's time for our turtle friend to go about her turtle business. Once we got to the reservoir shore, it first incredibly stuck its head out of its shell, probably not fully believing in its happiness, and then realizing that everything was real, it slowly started walking towards the water. And I gotta say, this was pretty fast. And once she was in the water, our friend began to gain a lot of speed. And then just sailed away. Now all we have left to do is wish her to not fall into such traps anymore.